And, yeah, we got some spice on our hands here. Misty Rainforest cracked for Hart, being able to get a land down, presumably getting a threat going.
This is awesome. You know, this is the dream, right, if you're a Magic player. You're on a feature match on camera with your Sweet Brew at the regional championship, looking to make a run. This is Magic. Nothing's better than this.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Fortunately for Carlos here, obviously Infect's a deck that definitely wants to win the die roll.
Yeah.
I think we're flipped here, actually. Never mind.
Yeah, I was going to...
Fortunately for Hart, we won the die roll. And,
I was very much looking, and I am like, okay, there is no breeding pool in this Dimir list. So, yeah. We, of course, have Carlos up top and Hart on the bottom here. Simic Infect up top versus Dimir mid-range below. So we do see Hart. That is going to throw me off. We see a Fatal Push killing a Noble Hierarch. How about that?
Yeah, bolt the bird, as it were. Now, normally a good heuristic, but against the Infect deck, basically, you have to kill every creature.
Yes.
You cannot let a creature live. And it's also the pressure of there are protection spells, too.
Yes.
So you need to have extra kill spells to kill the creature and then get through the protection spells. So while killing bolting the bird, as you will, killing a Noble Hierarch with a push is a good place to be.
Yeah.
That's one kill spell down as far as Carlos is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really tricky to play against Infect. You feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. Similar to playing against Titan, playing against Breach. Like, you can just die out of nowhere when there's a creature in play. But when you have this aspect, you see 2 Simic lands across from you, no creatures in play. This is where you're like, ribbit, it's frog time.
Yeah, ideal turn to play, obviously, Psychic Frog. One of the most powerful cards in the format, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, one of the most powerful creatures of all time. It really is just like an unbelievably powerful card. But
I mean, banned in Legacy, so that tells you a lot about the power level of the card for sure.
Absolutely.
See a Spellskite come down here for Carlos to do some protecting of any future Infect creatures, and we do see the Nexus. That always adds that element of scariness.
Yeah, that's the important one here. So you're saying how important is to have a creature in play. The next is a creature that comes down kind of sneakily, right?
Yeah.
It's a land drop. Here it is. But one of the most potent threats has flying, and it also is only a creature when you want it to be.
Yes.
So it's naturally protected until you're ready to fire up.
So it looks like we had the Fatal Push to try to take it down, and it was protected with a Snakeskin Veil to get a counter on it. Now, 16-turn clock.
Yes.
Get that Spellskite in there.
Spellskite, primary mode of offense.
Yes. All right, there is one of the most terrifying creatures ever to play again. The Agent, to be able to be an unblockable threat with Spellskite to do some protecting. And now, this is where things get very, very scary for Hart, as you can just die at any point.
Yeah, the walking on eggshells analogy is perfect.
Yes.
Just constant fear.
That is actually a really good one here. Harbinger, to be able to just turn all these lands into islands, seems great. I'm doing a check for how many blue cards actually matter, and the list is not very high from Carlos. So, Carlos will very much need to be dealing with that or aggressively fetching out one of the 2 forests, which we just don't have.
Yeah, only 2 forests available, and this is the perfect card for Hart to have here because it not only turns off the mana and makes things difficult, but it kills the Nexus too.
Yeah.
So that's a huge interactive point.
And it looks like we have an attack and a block with the Spellskite, and here they go.
Love it.
It is the get this frog going and discard a bunch. You got to discard 4 cards here to deal with 1 Spellskite. But when you don't have the ability to exile infinite cards to jump the frog, got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, the important note here is that Carlos doesn't really have removal spells.
Yeah.
The Infect deck is very tight. It's tricks and creatures, and getting that frog up huge. It's a huge resource dump.
Yeah.
But it's also a huge threat that's going to end this game quickly.
Yeah, we're going to see some dismembers in the board that are almost assuredly coming in, and you honestly got to go back to Carlos's first turn. And that was fetching a breeding pool instead of a forest. Modern is just one of these tricky formats where you have one little decision like that. You get Blood Moon, you get a Harbinger out of the game, and you don't make those mistakes too often because they hurt so badly. But might have been a misstep there from Carlos.
Yeah,
looking back,
it's tough to balance because if there wasn't any blue mana yet, might have needed it anyway. And there also only are 2 Harbinger Seas.
Yeah,
so it's the kind of thing where can I afford to play around it? Can I afford not to? But here in this case, things are starting to snowball Hart's way.
And whatever decision you make, it's the other one. That's
of course, exactly.
That's just Modern here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fetch a forest, never draw blue. and so on and so forth.
Exactly. So that's game number 1 from Hart Horton. Just taken down quite easily with the old frog into Harbinger. Now looking at Carlos's side, what does Carlos have to do from the Infect side to beat this really sweet kind of Esper mid-range deck?
Yeah, I think you were saying Dismember is going to be great here. Having an answer both to Harbinger for Seeds that can be cast off any color of mana is good, as well as the other creatures. This is a really creature-heavy deck. Psychic Frog, Sylvan of Sea and Sky, the Harbinger of Seas, Jothy Voidwalker. So Dismember is going to look great here. And then it's going to become a balance for Carlos to kind of balance these interacting spells. Some amount of protection spells are going to need to go out. Some amount of tricks are going to need to go out. And kind of find that right balance of still being able to do the thing, the Infect thing, but also be able to interact as well.
Yep, absolutely. And then from the other side, what are we thinking?
Harbinger of Seas looks phenomenal.
Yeah, just bring in more.
Yeah, even if Carlos is able to play around it and get the Forest early, being able to stop Inkmoth Nexus, which is one of the most potent cards in the entire deck, is absolutely huge.
Now, Jim, I got a question for you. Pretty important here. Do you own all of these Infect cards to go play at your next event?
I do not know.
You do not.
No.
But you own other Magic cards, right?
I probably have the Glistener Elves.
Okay, so, Jim, will you tell me where you could maybe get rid of some of your old cards to be able to maybe buy this Simic Infect deck?
StarCityGames.com. You got to sell your cards. The best thing you can do here, I think, is a store credit option.
Yeah.
30% markup on your cards. You're going to buy more Magic cards. And nothing feels better than either going online or going to the booth at an event and being like, well, I need these 10 cards. Take it off my credit.
Yeah, take it off my tab.
Yeah, put it on the tab, please, all right? So you can do that online at sellyourcards.starcitygames.com or at any event. Come to the booth. They'd love to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. They give you great rates. I am lucky enough to live at the Star City Games headquarters in Roanoke, so I go in, sell my cards right before I go film Commander Versus, stock it up, order new cards, pick those up the next time I go into film. It is a beautiful, beautiful system. Check them out for sure if you want to buy some of these sweet decks. Modern is definitely changing kind of every week, but you still, every week, every weekend, but you still kind of see some of these really awesome favorites like Simic Infect, and you can kind of play whatever you want here.
Yeah, and being able to have that variability, too, where you feel like, oh, well, I'm going to buy into this deck. If things kind of go wrong, I can change decks. I can sell in and sell out, which is great. And, Modern is definitely a format that is evolving heavily over the last year or so.
100%.
Bans and unbans are just super exciting, but requires you to change things up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So as these players get shuffled up for game number 2, I want to ask you one question because it's kind of wild that it's been maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks or whatever since our most recent shakeup in Modern. Where we had some bans. The One Ring got out of there, thankfully. I think we were all sick of that card.
Yes.
But then the unbannings. What do you think of the unbannings of Splinter Twin, Faithless Looting, Mox Opal, and I think that was it, right? Was there another card?
Green Sun Zenith.
Oh, yeah, Green Sun Zenith. Yeah, what do you think of the impact of these cards?
I think very exciting. I think that, I think one of the things about Modern lately is that there are so many new products coming out. It can feel like Modern is so much new. And I think being able to unban a card like Splinter Twin, Mox Opal, Looting, these kind of like classic cards that just feel like Modern.
Yeah.
And letting them back to come play, Mox Opal's a little scary, as it often is. But, I think that, maybe Breach or some other combo. Ironworks was the problem before. Maybe it's Breach now. But these are absolute classics, and they really help Modern kind of maintain that Modern feel.
Agreed. Totally agree with you. Yep. I think all of them made a lot of sense. Splinter Twin, I was kind of shocked that basically made no impact. It was everybody's hot list deck to play right when it got unbound, and then everyone's like, Modern has surpassed the power level of a 4-mana sorcery on a vulnerable creature when you have things like Solitude, Unholy Heat. It really pressured a lot of decks when you had like Deceiver Exarch and, Bolt was the removal spell of choice.
Yeah.
But this is not your grandfather's Modern anymore.
For sure.
All right, so firing it off here, Carlos, turn number 1, Noble Hierarch, and a Forest this time
forest,
around.
Yep.
Let's go. Can't fool me twice, says Carlos. Gets the Forest ready to go. And Hart on the other side, no removal spell like we saw before. So has that mana advantage here from Carlos, and now gets down the first poisonous little elf.
Yeah, this is so important. Noble Hierarch is unbelievable with these Infect decks.
Yeah.
The ability, obviously the Exalted ability gives you more damage, sure. But having extra mana is so important in winning like this like trump race of like I have a trump card, you have a trump card, I have a trump card, you have a trump card. So the more mana you have, the more cards you can play, and then it only takes one turn to die. So having 4 mana available when your opponent has 2, you can play through their kill spells and then also deal a killing blow.
That's my favorite Jim quote of the weekend already. It only takes one turn to die.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and Noble Hierarch, the stock on the card really went down with a couple of cards that became popular in Modern, the Red and 6, the Bowmasters of the world. But yeah, not what we're seeing here to deal with it. Pest Control to try to clean up these 2 pesky 1-drops.
This is super ideal because a lot of the defensive measures in the Infect deck are based around targeting.
Yeah.
Vines of the Vast Wood, ways to say, hey, nope, I got protection, I have Hexproof, whatever it might be. A sweeper avoids that. And a sweeper that's so cheap like Pest Control is literally perfect.
Pest Control looking awesome here. Another card where I feel like all of us collectively will be looking at deck lists in the scope of what it does against Breach. That is really how warping the deck is right now. And Pest Control, a great card against Breach, but has this kind of collateral damage when you play against Infect round 2 at your RC. That's the thing is, the best decks are going to be the best decks. You're going to play against them a lot, especially on day 2 at the top tables. But it is Modern. It is a local RC where it's 1,308 players. You're going to play against everything, and you got to be ready to go at a format this deep.
It's important for deck selection, too, understanding that, like, the rules of engagement, Everyone's trying to beat Breach, so they have X, Y, and Z card. How are X, Y, and Z card good against my Brute?
Yes.
Are they good? Are they not good? Because it can change a lot of factors.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most valuable lessons I learned from my brother, really a Hall of Fame career, Brad Nelson. He always attacked metagames by looking at the removal of what people are playing. And whatever you could kind of get around as far as the removal, that would be the deck that he would kind of lean towards. So I think that's very important to see what people are playing to kill creatures, kill things. So.
All right, well, we see the modern-day element of Modern, these pitch spells. So Force Negation, huge deal. The mana advantage I was talking about with Noble Hierarch, when you have spells that are free, doesn't actually matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we jump this frog? We must have. So I was going to say, how did we get to block that one? Maybe I'm missing something.
I'm not sure.
There is the merfolk there exiled, to presumably give it flying there.
Psychic Frog's so powerful.
So good. So good. One counter there. Now, the kind of weird interaction here with the Infect damage on the frog. What are we looking at there?
So we see the -1/-1 counters obliterate +1/+1 counters as they get together.
Yep.
So Frog there was actually an 0-1, but then a card was discarded to make it back to a natural 1-2. So the Infect damage from the Nexus will shrink the Frog back down, but Frog more than capable of getting bigger as time goes on.
Yeah, Frog, all it needs is 1 power, and you get to draw that card. And now with Carlos not having any Infect creature, missed out on some pump spells, got to be feeling a little brutal about the situation here from Carlos's really sweet flashback of Simic Infect.
Yeah, it's tough. The Frog is just so powerful. It just single-handedly, it's a threat. It draws cards, ends the games quickly. It blocks really well. Of course, the homage here to Psychotog, the classic card back in the day.
Yes.
Similar effect where it was super powerful, a great blocker, but Psychic Frog is just that times a million.
That was the first deck. I started playing an Onslaught. That was the first deck I played against. That was kind of like a tier 1 Psychotog upheaval shenanigans.
Yep.
I was playing an 80-card deck before Yorion, or that was a cool thing to be doing.
So ahead of the curve.
Just cards I owned,
Yep.
and they're like, what do you mean I have to pick them all up? Like my
Yep.
lands too?
Yep.
I was like, this is not fair.
Yep. Yeah, the Psychic Frog getting the permanent buff, because Psychotog was only a temporary buff. So you could one-shot your opponent or make for big blocks, but at a pretty huge cost to resources. The fact that you discard these cards and you lose them, but the sizing on the Frog is just so important, and the Frog just gets the cards right back anyway.
Yeah, Frog is just an incredibly powerful card, that is for sure.
This is a classic Infect problem, of the creatures get dealt with, and now I have a handful of protection spells, interaction spells, but there's no friend to take care of.
Yep, exactly. And Infect doesn't really do that well at playing from behind, trying to block really out of the question, and then trying to get any kind of card advantage going also very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely an all-in combo deck. You know, it's not like a lot of the modern-day combo decks that have these, Urza Saga, Plan Bs and stuff. You know, it is very, very good at doing the thing that it does, which makes it very linear as far as just really being fast. So it is good in the combo matchups because it can kill them so quickly, but in a very interactive matchup like this, that could be a huge liability.
Yep, definitely. It looks like Carlos put the block and then went for the spell. You know, I would have liked to see that spell first and then get to block, if it resolves, because otherwise you just lose your infect creature here. But it is kind of a rock and a hard place here anyways.
It's tough because that plays around a counter spell, but playing around a removal spell, at least we'd have the block in, so the frog won't draw a card.
Yeah.
So it's a tough spot to be in there for sure.
For sure. And here is Endurance to at least get some of these cards put on the bottom. And now you can do some discarding to get it grown. And I do see only those 2 cards exiled, so we might have had a little bit of an oopsie-doopsies early on as that frog did block a flyer.
What can't frog do, right?
I guess.
I
guess. All right, here comes this. And Dismember on a 5 toughness frog.
Yeah.
Got some cards to discard. It's just all brutal here. Carlos didn't seem to draw these cards when it was needed, and now there is that final 2 damage to come down, and Horton's Dimir midrange, kind of Esper midrange with the pest control, takes it down, and